right, so we're going to be starting on a new color pencil piece. Now I will be using the Black by Fabriano, and that would be the paper, and then the color pencils that I'm using is going to be the Polychromos. Now I went ahead and created a color chart with some of the pencils that I could end up using. So I picked a lot of my reds out and went ahead and got my yellows and some of my oranges. And by doing this, I can get a good idea of what this color pencils are going to look like on a black paper. And that way, whenever I go to use them, it'll be more of the color that I'm thinking that I'm needing just by looking over on this chart. It really helps me out whenever I do my color pencil pieces. Plus that, this color pencil piece, if you guys are wanting to give this a try, use it as a practice piece, anything like that, you can get that over on Pixabay. I do have the link for this picture listed below in the description if you guys want to head over to Pixabay and grab this photograph here of these candles. Now these candles are going to be all red candles, and it's going to be a duplicate of each other, kind of, in a way. I mean, the wicks are going to be a little bit different, the flames are going to be a little bit different, but as far as that, it's going to be kind of like the same reflections, unless the candle's a little distorted, but it's a red candle for all four of these. So let's go ahead, jump on in, and let's get started working on these candles. And then after that, we do this first one, you kind of get a good idea of what the next one and the next one and the next one's going to be. So let's go ahead, turn this around, and let's get started. So here I am just kind of trying out these pencils. I noticed that if you're wanting to get more of a darker tone and you go on top of white, like that white line, it'll end up being a little bit too bright. So I had to erase that line in order to get that area a little bit darker. And now I'm working in some of the reflections. Now, I know this is not a like how to draw or do these type of candles, so I'm not going to go over each and every color I did use, but I did use, or at least the exact colors. I did use a lot of my reds, my oranges. I did use the black to tone some of the reds down. And the whole thing with using this black paper is that I've used it before, like doing like this little kind of like beetle that had different colors. I did use it for that. It was very small. And I also did a light match, like it's on my Patreon, but I did one of those matchsticks that the flame kind of went out and you got this smoke kind of coming from it, and it was just amazing. The lighter colors I used for the matchstick turned out great. So I mean, I really wanted to try this using more of my reds and yellows. And the thing that I found out is, when using this paper and trying to get something really like realistic, the candles did not turn out the way I wanted it to in this piece. And I'm really thinking that if you are going to make these candles and you're wanting them to stand out a whole lot more, I know I like to add my layers in and layer it using my odorless mineral spirits, and then layering some more, and then using my odorless mineral spirits to blend, and then putting another layer on. So I did at least 2 blends with the odorless mineral spirits, and then I left it at the end with not going on top of the candles again with the odorless mineral spirits, just to kind of leave it a little bit, how should I say this? Like, I didn't want it to, it was still a little bit grainy whenever you put the pencils on. Now, I'm sure you can probably go in like smaller circles and work a little bit more. It'll be a little bit more time consuming, but as you can see here, as I'm blending, it gets darker. And once it dries, it lightens up a little bit more. So I wasn't too afraid of that. I was like, I know it's really dark now, should lighten up once it starts drying out a little bit, and then I'll be able to put in another layer. Well, when I did that, it still had just this, it's a weird kind of shine that really pops out on this paper. There is not a lot of tooth on this paper also. It is super smooth. So when you work on it, it's like you can't really put too many layers down like you would using like a different type of paper that has a little bit more of a tooth to it. Like the Canson pastel paper, I do use that with my color pencils. It does fantastic. Has a little bit more of a tooth to it, but this paper here is super smooth. Now I'm going over it again with a second layer, and as you can see, the colors really do stand out a little bit more. So if I were to do anything different with this paper, maybe quite possibly I would actually go on top of it with the color pencils and just not blend out my last layer like I did here. I didn't blend out my yellows on it. I kind of left those. I did blend out the little flame, and only the flame, like the white little flame and the yellow, and around the outside edges. Went over it again with color pencil and left it. So, and it turned out perfect. Like the flames on this was perfect. And I absolutely loved the way it looked. So I was happy with that. But the candles, on the other hand, was kind of, it's kind of iffy there. So see, I'm blending this again with odorless mineral spirits. I'm trying not to use as much odorless mineral spirits, but it still turns out darker. And I was really trying to smooth out some of these colors, but like I said, it didn't have enough tooth on the paper. I didn't want it too bright. And I mean, I did what I could on it. It's not something that I would say I absolutely hated and didn't like the way it looked. It's just very different. So if you're wanting to use this paper and you're doing like a flame, like the flame on the top of the candle, oh my God, it works amazing. I love the way it looks. Using more of those whites and the yellows and the brighter colors, they really do stand out quite a bit. Now, if you're going to the reds, like I said, I would probably not blend them out. Like maybe blend it out once and then go over it again with color pencil and probably just leave it. That way your color doesn't dull down a whole bunch like mine did. You could do that. So here I'm just going over it again, doing the second candle, doing the little orange, and then I'll be going in and doing the little highlight for the reflection of the flame on the candle. Now I do blend out the yellow once, and then I go back over it again, and then I don't blend out the yellow. So at least I'm very careful around that yellow, because I definitely don't want to wash it out. Now, as I'm putting in some of these colors, I even added a little bit of white and then put my red down on top of it. Now, that made it a little bit brighter there. So if you wanted to do that, you could add in a little white and then using the color that you're wanting to stand out a little bit more on top of that white does help out a whole bunch. Now, I did use some of the cream in there, but like I said, you could just use plain white. I don't think it's really going to make a difference because you can't really tell the difference between them, the white and the cream. Now the flame here is not blended yet. You could actually leave it the way it is and not have it blended out. But if you're wanting it to be a little bit more smoother and not gritty and grainy, you can go in there and blend out like I did here. I just was really easy to blend out that flame, maybe a little bit around the outside, and that still makes it look a little washed out there. But you can always go on top of it again once it dries with a second layer. And after I did that with the second layer, I just left it. I didn't even blend it out at all because it was really smooth. It looked really good. And so I just left it. And you could actually do that with the candles instead of doing what I did, which was blend it out with odorless mineral spirits and then just left it. I didn't go back over it again with color pencil. So you can actually go back over it with color pencil and then just leave it. So it's totally up to you on how you want your candles to look. If you're using this, if you're wanting to try it out with some different color pencils, such as maybe the Caran d'Ache, or maybe you've got some different ones in there, maybe the Derwent Drawing or the Derwent Life Fast, maybe you got some of those. You can go ahead and try them out with some different color pencils and just see how those reds kind of react. Maybe you can get those reds to kind of pop a little bit more. Me, on the other hand, I just wanted to try it with the Polychromos. I mean, I had good luck with my Polychromos before, so I just wanted to see how it would act if I were using it on a like all red candles. And as far as I can see here, I liked the way it looked with the flame using the Polychromos, but as far as like doing some of these candles, I didn't really care too much for it, but that's just me, and I'm really picky, so yeah. But I absolutely love these flames and using the Polychromos pencils for them. So yeah, I went over those just again. Now I'm going over that a second time. Now, as you can see, both those, or at least this one in the middle, the candle that I'm working on now, that's just going over it again. Now, you could just leave it the way it is right there, or you can blend it out, which I did because I want them all to be on the same page here. So blending it out with the Odorless Mineral Spirits, and after I blend out that middle one, I will just leave it. This one's being blended for the first time here. Now I'm blending out this one, and then I'll just leave it. I'll probably end up putting a little bit of highlight if I wanted to back into that yellow reflection, but if I like the way it looks, then I'm just not going to touch it. That's just how it is. You keep working on it until it looks good. Now here I wanted this to stand out a whole lot more, so I added a little bit of white on top of the red and then added my red on top. That made that red a whole lot brighter, a little bit brighter. So that way it looks like there's still a reflection going on there, but not like the yellow reflection. So that is a little bit different. I'm just layering multiple colors here. I'm layering in some darks, some of the kind of like a purpley kind of red. Layering red on top of it, just to kind of tone it down a little bit. If I need it a little bit darker, I'll even put a little bit of black in there. Now I'm just kind of layering in this wick, so that way it looks like the wick is not really necessarily burnt, completely melted down yet, so it's just been lit. Layering in that cream and the white, a little bit of that orangey yellow there. Now with the wick, I love the way the wick looked on that one, so I'm actually not even going to blend it out with Odorless Mineral Spirits. I'm actually just going to leave that wick alone and not touch it, but I will blend out the candle and the flame, just like I did the others. So I'm adding in a second layer to this other candle. And then I will be going through and blending it out for the last time with Odorless Mineral Spirits. This one here is the first time blending out with the Odorless Mineral Spirits. The last one at least. So while I'm blending that out, taking my time and doing that, then that other one should be dry enough to where I can go back on top of it. Well, blending a little bit more out. Now, I know this is sped up, so some of it has actually had a little bit of time in there to dry, so definitely looks like I didn't have enough time for it to dry, but I kind of sped this up, so. Adding in my second layer to this flame. Just kind of blending it out for the last time there. And that should be all good. So, signing my signature to it, and yeah. So if you're interested in doing this piece, like I said, I do have the reference photo from Pixabay listed down below in the description. And then I used all the Polychromos. I love the way it gave me the flame for the candle. As far as the candles go, I'm just kind of questionable about them. But other than that, it really looked really cool on this paper. So I am happy with the flame. Maybe next time I can come up with something a little bit different to use on this paper. Maybe another flame. Who knows? So until next time, bye you guys.